Welcome in episode number 50. We are here playing catch up as we had technical difficulties last week, so we missed another week. But hey, that's not important. What's important is we're here now. We're ready to roll. We've got things all hooked up. It's ready to go. Zach is completely. We can hear him, so that's good news for him.
Oh, yeah, we're piloted it up.
Yeah, he's piloted up. We're gonna recap everything. We're gonna get you guys caught up. We're gonna go for our Week 10 preview here, Week 11 if you count Week 0. Who's drinking the Kool-Aid? We're going to give you our NBA picks, and we'll visit the St0ner Sports Book, as Zach had a fantastic 4-1 weekend. He has $1.65 he can split between 6 games. He is ready to go and try to flip that around and get him a parlay hit for the season. Zach, how are we doing this fabulous Friday evening on a big college football weekend coming up for us?
I mean, we're doing fantastic. I mean, I think I've gone from $1 to start the season to $1.65 now. So, I mean, we're making money, and that's what's important.
Yeah, that's what's important. We're making money, right? Like we're out here making money. We're
And
giving you
all I want to
picks.
say is, whether you follow me or Will, we have like a tied record right now.
Yeah,
So, like, you're
yeah,
gonna make money either way because we're
yeah,
both doing well.
yeah. And I mean, we've had a couple bad weeks apiece. It happens. If you can't handle losing, don't bet with us, okay? Because it's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
this is
But
the
we
big
win.
dogs.
We win more than we lose, though. We win more than we lose. We're both batting around 67, 68% win percentage. So hey, well, you'll take that. That's winning money. So
I'll take 2 out of 3 any day. I mean, that's
right,
what we're averaging, 2 out of
yeah.
3, right? So,
Yeah, that's how it's chalked up. So let's get into this. Right, this has been a fabulous couple weeks for me because the Working Ducks continue to win. For you, it's been kind of rough. Let's go ahead and hit this 3 game streak for OU. These last 3 games. Let's talk about the UCF game and get that out of the way. 2-point victory over a UCF team. Just couldn't seem to really separate yourselves. The running game that was supposed to be, the key to victory because UCF's run defense is just terrible. Apparently, wasn't there. Go ahead and tell me kind of what went wrong against the Golden Knights a couple weeks ago.
um, I think it's the same thing that's been happening the entirety of the last 3 games, and its offensive play calling has been terrible. Um, I think you hit it on the head. We couldn't get a run game going very well whatsoever against UCF, which is terrible because they're a terrible run defense team. But I'm also just it's hard to look anywhere but Levy right now as an OU fan. Like who's really responsible for, you know, turnovers on downs, um, all these 3 and outs that we're all of a sudden getting? It's Levy. And I don't know what's happened from the first 7 weeks after Texas just like falling apart. I don't know if our like entire season was for Texas. Maybe Texas was our Super Bowl. I don't know. Um, I mean, the UCF game, unfortunately, was the prettiest of all those games, though, and that's what bothers me, is because you have a chance to win the game against Kansas.
Yeah, let's talk.
You
Go ahead and
you turn the
transition
ball
into that.
over.
Right? You.
Yeah, like, you turn the ball over, you have a chance to win the game against Kansas. You're calling terrible 4th down plays that are behind the chains, I mean, or behind the sticks, and I mean, I don't understand all the screen passes, I don't understand all the jet sweeps, I don't understand throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage so many times like Levy does. We don't have the speed demons for that. I mean, we don't have Anthony anymore. He was a huge part of our offense. He
Yeah.
was a true wide receiver 1, which I think we're starting to see losing him meant a lot more than we thought it would. Um, Farouk obviously has been dropping balls, which isn't good. And then, the only receiver that I think has played consistently for us has been Stoops. And as much as I love Stoops, he's just not the athlete that the others are. So he's not going to he's not going to catch the ball behind the line of scrimmage and then, you know, speed demon for 20 yards at least. Um, that was a large problem against Oklahoma State too. And this is kind of where most of the frustrations really come out because, one, as poor as OU played, the refs are the reason that OSU won that game. I'll say that now. I'm not gonna say that
Okay,
OU
okay,
didn't.
okay,
I'm not
okay.
gonna act like OU played like OU didn't play good
Okay.
by any means.
Let me
OU
push
played
back a little.
terrible.
Let me push back a little bit. Like not in like that respect, but like let's think about this, Zach. You take a 21-17 lead in the third quarter off of Walker's
Mhm.
like only carry of the game. He touches the ball once and scores, right? Which to me said, imagine if he could have been good enough to play that whole game. I don't think OSU would have been able to handle him, and I think that's really kind of where you lost this game, right? Because you
Yeah,
didn't see him the whole entire game until that carry. Boom, he scores. Boom, you take the lead. Like, and then after that, again, like you said, it became more of those screen passes behind the line, more of this. Let's try to run it right in between the tackles and see if we can get anything against Xavier Benson, who was probably the best defensive player on the field besides Kip Lewis. I think him and Kip
yeah,
Lewis were having kind of back and forth, who wants to be linebacker of the game kind of things. I think you have to give it to Benson because he forced that fumble um, late in the third there, where it bounced off of Gabriel's shin and went sprawling forward into his arms. Um, we can talk about the maybe possibly a direct snap to Javante Barnes that didn't end up going well, as he tried to give it back to Dylan Gabriel, and Dylan Gabriel was like, "Oh, hot potato, couldn't handle." I don't know what
God.
happened that play. That play was ugly. I mean, at first people were like, "Let's justify this and say the center snapped it to the wrong guy," because why would the halfback be instantaneously trying to hand it off to the quarterback if the snap wasn't supposed to go to the quarterback? And me, in my mind, I'm saying if that happens to me, right, and the ball is snapped to me, and I know that the play is not supposed to go to me, you've just got to improvise at that point. I mean, this is kind
Just
of
gotta
on Javante Barnes, right? He's just got to go. Like you just got to try to make something out of nothing, because I don't know what his idea of like handing it back to Dylan Gabriel, who again was not ready for. I think Dylan Gabriel thought the same thing. Like go ahead and just do something with it. He was like, "Oh no, you have it." And like by the time he handed it to him, there was another guy back there. Drake Stoops was involved somehow. He was kind of bumping in between people. It looked like it was supposed to be some sort of like reverse, like triple option kind of play, which again, like you said, the play calling's been terrible. At that point in the game would not have really been necessary to actually run a play like that in the first place. But again, those two turnovers, huge for you guys. I don't really think the pick is really that big of a deal. I think people kind of look at that as like a big turnover. I don't really think it was, um, because I think there were multiple factors that went into why that happened.
It was the
Um,
bobbled snaps
yeah,
were the biggest issue, I
yeah.
think. And look, I don't wanna sit here and be the guy that's like, "Listen, OSU paid the refs," even though they probably did, but, like, I don't wanna be that guy. All I'm saying is that OU definitely didn't put themselves in a position, to win the football game.
No,
However, that that missed PI call on Drake Stoops, right? That's the difference between going up by 1 and being down by 4 or being down by 3, right? So, as much as I, like, am upset because OU definitely played a terrible game, OSU played fantastic, I think. Obviously, Ollie Gordon didn't run as much as he probably should have, but I'm proud of how our, like, linebackers played without having, Stutzman out there for a majority of it, and not having any. I mean,
no,
geez, we're still so
and
injured.
tip your cap to Alan Bowman for actually being able to find Rashad
Yeah,
Owens 95
he played
times that
good.
game. I mean, it was one of those things where going in there, I don't think OSU really had a wide receiver one. I mean, Brennan
No,
Presley's supposed to be that guy, but he hasn't really played up to the expectations before the season started. So Rashad Owens kind of, catching like the first 5 or 6 passes from Alan Bowman, and all being literally double digit catches. I mean, I think, like you said, the defense did what you wanted it to do, make Alan Bowman beat you. And he would not have, I don't think, if he didn't have the turnovers and if Tyree would have been healthy. I think those are kind of the big two things.
and go ahead and say the missed PI. I mean, that's in there
I
too.
mean, the miss PI is big, but I mean, like, I think that
Well, it's not
in
not that one call doesn't determine the game.
you still had
I'm with
another
that.
chance. That's what I'm saying. Like
Well, yeah,
if that would have been like the last drive, right? Like it was in 2021, right? Because in 2021, same thing happened, right? Caleb Williams is looking for a guy in the end zone. He's completely mugged. It's obvious DPI, and they don't call it. And
mhm.
where are you at the end of that game? A chance on third and fourth down to go and win the football game inside the red zone. Like both of these games, I mean, sure, we can blame it on the missed DPI calls. I'm not going to say they're not huge, and I'm not going to say you wouldn't capitalize, but let's just play devil's advocate here. You probably muff a snap down there anyways. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
I mean,
I
I
mean,
don't
I mean,
necessarily disagree with
I
that,
mean, I mean,
but I
I
will say I think that not that getting the field goal there instead of and what probably would be a touchdown, right? Like it's either
you would
if you don't
think,
get the field goal, you probably you would think like let's assume that they get a touchdown. I mean, it's like first and goal on the 6 or whatever, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah.
you would think that they get one there. Assuming that they do, I think that drastically changes the play calling going forward,
Well,
right?
it changes
Because
OSU's play calling too. That's the thing is like
yeah,
them playing from behind. You're talking about a completely different animal than what they did
mhm.
after that happened, anyways, which was
I
go
think
3 and out. They went 3 and out regardless. I mean, I
yeah,
don't, but I think they would have
I
thrown it, a lot more if they had been down, and I think it would have been one of those things. But I think that you're looking at this from obviously a very biased angle, which I can completely
yeah.
understand because I would think the same thing. Like I'm not sitting here saying you have any sort of wrongdoing and feeling the way you feel because I can understand that. But for
I
me,
think well, I wanna
go
mitigate it though, like, I
okay.
think the DPI for me, right, I think it does change probably the outcome of the game just because I think that I don't know.
I mean, I
I don't
mean,
know if it changes the winner, it definitely changes the score by a lot.
okay, I'll give you
But,
that.
um,
I'll give you the score.
but I think, that call probably I think at that point in the game, OU probably had like a 35 to 40% chance to win. I think that if that call is made, we're probably jumping over 50.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I think I can agree that the momentum would have been huge, and
yeah,
and
and I think that the missed call just kinda dejected, like, the whole sideline, like, and I don't
well, I mean,
God, I
and
hate it, but, like, we can't ignore what's obviously happening to OU and Texas in the Big 12, right?
oh,
Like
let me put my
and
tinfoil hat on. Hold
I'm
on,
advocating for
let me
I
get
am
dressed.
advocating for Tex here. I am advocating for Texas here. Like, even Texas fans were tweeting out like, "Damn, oh, you got screwed," because 'cause they're wanting that
Well,
rematch in December, they want that thing bad,
yeah,
and,
well, you know what you're gonna get. You might get a Bedlam rematch instead of an OU Texas rematch. I mean,
I don't
that's
know if that's gonna happen, like, I don't I think it's Texas is gonna be there. It's a question of if it's gonna be
Texas
OSU
is
or
losing to
OU.
TCU. I'm already putting my flag into that right now.
If Texas loses to
Texas is
TCU, we
losing to
gotta
TCU.
go to the OU TCU game.
I'm, I'm telling you, it's already happening. Like I'm.
I'm kind of in agreement with that. It just seems like the games are gonna lose, right?
That's what
Because
I'm.
you're
I mean,
getting late into the
well. Look, I
season.
mean, think about this. This is That's the only team they've got left on the schedule that's going to probably give them a tough time. It's got to be tomorrow. Like it's got to be. That's got to be it. I mean, Iowa State, sure, it's on the road. It's on the road. Like you might have some trouble. I mean, to be honest, it might be Tech that gets them. I would not be surprised if Texas Tech. I mean, what if this happens? What if both Texas schools beat them? I mean, I'm not saying that they need to have that happen for my scenario to take place. I'm saying what if this is it, right? Like what if this is the collapse we've been waiting for? Is here comes on the road down in Fort Worth. Hate that for you. I mean, I guess Texas Tech is probably a W, but
Well,
that's a 6:30 game. I know it's down in Austin, but I mean Texas Tech is rowdy. They
but is Quinn playing it t with TCU? Is Quinn playing?
I don't think so. I think it's probably I mean,
It's a wrap.
I
It's a
think it's
wrap.
Murphy. I think it's the Murph. I think
It's a wrap.
I mean, if it's not Murphy, it's Manning. Manning might get his
Either
first
way,
start this week. I mean, if that happens, I mean, TCU's got the edge for sure. I mean, this is on the road. This is a night game in Fort Worth. This has the recipe tomorrow for Texas to drop this. Like I'm gonna be standing in the stands with my sister tomorrow night. Freezing my tail off. I say freezing my tail. 39's not that cold, but it's still 30s. I mean, and I'm hoping I'm not gonna have to stay till the end. I'm hoping that your boys take care of business and do some stuff. But the way that West Virginia's constructed, brother, it's not looking great because they're number 4 in the nation in time of possession, and you got absolutely torched last week, 37-23 in time of possession. That's not looking great because you're talking about having 3 or 4 less drives than you do any other normal game, and you can't afford to make mistakes against West Virginia tomorrow and hope to overcome them. With a team that likes to milk the clock and run the football effectively. I mean, they don't have just
Yeah.
one really, 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 really good Heisman caliber running back. They've got two really good running backs, and they've got three offensive linemen that are going to be playing on Sundays next year. They probably have the best offensive line in the Big 12. Where you're going to have the advantage is on the offensive side of the ball if you play up to snuff because West Virginia's
Well,
defense is trash. I mean,
no, the
it's
advantage comes from Danny Stutzman. And I think he's back. So Danny
yeah.
Stutzman coming back against
Danny's
West
going to go.
Virginia,
Danny's going to try
that
and go.
that
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 he
makes the
that he,
difference 100%.
and
He 100% makes a giant difference in our defense. He's the energy behind the defense. He is going to be the reason that O-line looks terrible tomorrow. Guarantee it.
Yeah, and that's what you're gonna have to hope for because and the thing is they don't even know if they think his snaps are gonna be limited. They think they're going to put Stutzman
I
on a
don't
snap,
disagree with that.
and I don't. And
I
that's what I'm
think keep
saying.
him
Like,
for the important ones, right? Like keep him for the third downs,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Keep him,
have him out there on third down, have him down
yeah.
there on especially third and short. Um,
Because Kip Lewis can make up for that, right?
yeah,
Kip
yeah,
Lewis
yeah.
can make up for a
Kiplis
lot
had
of that.
15 tackles against Oklahoma State. I mean,
Exactly.
he's
Like,
a
maybe
ball
are we
magnet.
talking about him? Have we talked about him over Kanik yet?
I don't think so because at the time, so maybe in our DMs we may have mentioned it, but the Kansas game that was kind of his coming out party, right? Because
Mhm.
Kanik was playing terrible. They pulled Kanik, they put Kip Lewis in, um, they put McKenzie in it too a little bit, um, and they ended up playing most of that second half, and again another game you had a beautiful chance to win and just couldn't get the job done defensively. I mean that's rough. I don't know if you can hang that on Stutzman not being on the field. I know he adds an element, and I don't know how you leave those guys wide open on the sideline like that, just blown coverages, and you hadn't been doing that the whole game. I mean, it was just really rough to watch that Kansas game and then have to come back the next week and go to a hostile environment in Stillwater for the last bedlam. You know the emotions are going to be boob coo bananas, and then you go and crap down your leg by turning it over two times on their side of the 50. I mean, that's what hurt the most. It wasn't like, oh, this turnover happened, you know, it was a turnover that happened on your way to score, which you would think would be advantageous because they have to march all the way down the field, but they were playing the best they'd probably have played offensively this season against, I mean, because this was the best team they've played. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. OU's the best team OSU's played all season, and what happened? They got a little bit of help, but I think in the end, I don't know if the outcome, like you said, would have changed. The score probably would have been different, but I think that they were on a path to just kind of spank you on the way out, regardless. I think it was just one of those things where the odds were not in your favor. Um, and you guys really
Yeah.
weren't playing well, and I think that's just a
Yeah.
bad combination. If you guys had been playing really well, none of it would have mattered, and you would have blown them out by 3 touchdowns. I
Yeah, that's
think,
the problem is just with the turnovers and the bobbled snaps, especially. We were playing well. It's just
yeah,
those couple of plays where you turn over the
yeah,
ball. I mean, that really makes the difference. The bobbled snaps is really what made the difference for me. Like, you don't bobble those snaps. Center plays a little bit better, probably snaps the ball more accurately. That loss doesn't happen, and we're sitting with playoff hopes, right?
yeah, correct.
Even with the loss to Kansas. So
Um,
I think that's enough on OU, though. I
yeah.
mean, just a
So
terrible three
yeah,
weeks.
so
We'll put it that way.
it's been rough. We'll talk a little bit more about them as we talk about Week 10 here in a little bit. Let's talk about Georgia a little bit. They had a tough little 2 game spell. They had Florida, and then last week they had Missouri, and I'm telling you, Missouri gave them a run for their money, Zach. And we kind of talked about
Mhm.
this. Of course, it didn't get put out
Yeah,
there, but we talked
they
about
cost me
this.
my one pick that was wrong was because of that.
Yeah, and well, I tried to tell you. I tried to tell you. Now I did pick Missouri to
I
win
told you to
straight up,
tell
but
yeah, I
I
told you
mean
to take
they
the other way, and, well, I mean, you won on that one.
I did, but I didn't because I mean,
Yeah,
and obviously there's no evidence of me saying this, but I did pick Missouri to win straight up, but they covered, and that's great teams cover. It would have been better if they would have won just for my sanity, but that's okay. Who needs that? Um, so they get that job done, and then what happens? Um, you it's a 9 point win, right? It looks okay. Um, but again, this is one of those things where Missouri had a chance to win this game, Zach. They really had a chance. They had a chance. They had a chance to do it, and what happened? I'll tell you what happened. It was really. It was really, I mean, and this is kind of surprised. Carson Beck kind of happened, right? I mean, 254, 2 touchdowns, not a fantastic, gonna make your eyes bulge out of your head day, but for him, that's one of those days. And I think that that's the one thing that Missouri couldn't have happen. And I think what you've seen is losing their starting tight end has affected them offensively. I think this is great evidence of that. What are your thoughts on Missouri hanging tough, and how do you look at Georgia now after these last 2 weeks, heading into this week, where once again, you're looking at having a pretty substantial opponent. I wouldn't say it's something to be super worried about, but Ole Miss is not going to just roll over and die.
I think Ole Miss wins this game.
Oh shit! Okay, I mean I
I'll
like
put a
it.
pick on it. I'll
I
put a
mean,
pick on it. I think Ole Miss wins this game.
I mean.
I don't think that Georgia's gonna have the offense to keep up.
And that's funny because Ole Miss has had weeks where their offense has been kind of inept for no reason against teams that aren't good. So you're taking Ole Miss plus the 10, I take it. One of your picks.
Yeah.
Ole Miss
I
plus the
mean,
10.
I'd pick them straight up.
Yeah, you'd pick the plus 320 money line, just pick them straight up.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, I just think Georgia's due, right? I don't think they've been playing well. I think I'm not don't get me wrong, Missouri is a good team. I think
I'm,
Missouri is
I'm, I'm
probably the
putting Ole
best
Miss
two-loss
money
team
line
out
on
there,
there. I'm putting Ole
right?
Miss money line on there because I mean you can tell, right? You can tell that Georgia's kind of on their decline of the season. Um, like we said, they get to this part of the year and they kind of skate by opponents that they should probably take care of. But in this case, it's kind of the other way around, right, Zach? It's like these
In this case,
opponents
it's
aren't.
number 9.
Yeah, that's like yeah,
It's
it's
not
not a nobody. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It's not like Missouri 2 years ago where it was like, oh my God, they're tied going into the fourth quarter. What's happening? Like this is a good Missouri team. I hate to
Mhm.
say it, but it's a good Missouri team.
They're the
And
best two-loss team in the country, and I think they'll probably be top they might be number 10 on the playoff
yeah,
poll.
and OU might
Like,
be their opponent in their bowl game. I would not. I would not.
that's
I would not be surprised. Would
wouldn't
would
complain,
not.
and I'm not gonna act I don't I know we talked a lot about Missouri fans, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like Missouri probably wouldn't beat OU in that bowl game, not playoff. Neither of those teams are playoff teams, unfortunately, but
Yeah, I mean,
next year,
yeah.
we'll see
So
how
I mean,
Missouri
so
does.
so I think we're kind of in agreement here. Georgia kind of looking a little sluggish like they normally do during this time of the year, and I think rightfully the number two team in the college football rankings. I don't have a problem with that. And they could fall even if they win this week. If they skate by and they don't look good, they could fall to that 3 spot. I'm fine with them falling to 3. I think if they look bad enough eye test wise, I think that's a good thing. But people are going to say, "Oh, but resume, it's still a win over a top 10 team, yada yada yada." I mean, I can see the justification for staying at 2 as well, but it just depends. Personally, me, I would hope that they would beat Ole Miss by 14 to 17 points if I really wanted to stay at number 2. If they
I would say
if they
so.
if they beat them by like a field goal and it's like the last possession of the game, I'm going to be sitting here going, they're just not the same without Brock Bowers. I mean
Well,
that's
you
just
have to think about what else is gonna happen, right? Michigan's probably gonna beat Penn State. That's gonna probably push them to number 2.
yeah. I mean
I
that's
mean, what's really more impressive? Ranking wise, Georgia beating Ole Miss would be more impressive. But what we all know is that Penn State's the better team than Ole Miss, probably, right? So I think Michigan getting a win against Penn State, in Happy Valley, probably pushes them to that number 2 spot, despite all this stuff going on, right? Like
well
this
and
Harbaugh stuff. I don't know how they're gonna settle all this in the
yeah.
rankings, but do I think the playoff committee cares about, like, anything that happens off
No,
the field?
no.
Probably not. So, keep them number 2 or
Yeah,
put
I
them
mean,
up
and
number 2
well, and
probably.
here's the other thing is Penn State's coming off of a week where they are offensively confident, right? After being shut down by Ohio State, they put up 51 against Maryland and look like a team that can actually score the football. That's going to really help their confidence heading into this game offensively. Because seeing that ball cross the goal line was really rough against Ohio State. I don't even think they scored an offensive touchdown against the Buckeyes. I think it was all
Yeah.
it was like
Terrible.
a pick six, or it was all 5 field goals. It was something terrible. It was just bad. And I think that when you're talking about Michigan, I mean, they're playing as good as Georgia looked at the end of last season. Like, to me, they look as dominant as Georgia looked last year. They look better than Georgia right now. I mean, I'm not afraid to say that. But if they
I mean, I've
lose,
been saying
I-
this. They
if
should finish number
if
one.
if they lose this game this week, which, to be honest, I mean, this is their last chance to probably lose during the season. Period. Um, I mean, they have Ohio State left, right? Like, that's kind of like the big game. Um, but I think that this is the second biggest game they've got before the season is over. And I think that they know that, and I think that Michigan should take care of business. Do I think that Penn State's got a chance? Yeah, they got a chance, but like I said, the offense
ESPN
has.
thinks they have a higher than 50% chance.
Yeah, but the thing for me is they just have to be able to score the football. I mean, being
Yeah,
4 point underdogs is a huge
that's
compliment.
generous. That's generous.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm tempted to
Take
take
that. We
Michigan
gotta
minus
take
the
that.
4. I mean,
I'm taking it
you
right now.
okay? You take that. It's like you kind of have to, right? I mean, this
Like,
is.
I'm taking Michigan -4. They're gonna win. I mean, they're gonna win this football game, right? By at least a touchdown. I don't see Penn State scoring too many, but, like, this to me feels like the 28-21 kinda game.
that would be hitting the over, though. They have the over under at 44.5.
44.5?
So they think
Gee,
this is going to be
this
low
might be
scoring. I mean,
they
it's
think
Penn
it's
State's
probably gonna
defense
be
is really good. Like, that's the only thing, is Penn State's defense is legit. Like, I'm not gonna
oh,
lie
so
about that.
they think this game is gonna be 24-21.
Yeah,
That's what they think is gonna
they
happen.
think it's gonna be something like that.
Mhm, yeah. I would say keeping the 24, I would say it's probably gonna be 24-17.
Yeah, I would think 24-17. I would even think 24-14. To be honest, I mean, I
Yeah,
24-10. I could see 24-10. If
24-10 would be insane.
I mean, because I
I mean,
just don't
that
think
Michigan's just by
if
far the
Penn
best
yeah,
team in the
if
country if
Penn
they
State's
hold Penn State
offense
to that.
is clicking, then that's kind of what you're looking at this weekend. But
I mean,
anyways,
and it's in Happy Valley. That's a big deal.
yeah, it is. It is. So like I said, Georgia kind of looking on the decline, hence us talking up Michigan. The Huskies have continued to win. They had kind of a shaky week against Stanford, bounced back and kind of got back on the right track um, against excuse me, against who did they play last? I mean, and then USC, you take care of business there as well. Of course, that was more probably on the failings of USC than it was the success of Washington. I think USC had a very good chance to win that football game. Um, just like last week. Texas could have easily lost to Kansas State in overtime. I mean, if Kansas State doesn't decide to go for it on 4th and goal and end up kicking the field goal to send it into another overtime, I mean, that's nuts on the table shit right there for Kansas State. I mean, they have nothing to lose, was kind of probably their mentality there. Um, and Texas escapes. Um, Kind of the same thing with Washington, right? I mean, it was kind of more like nuts on the table stuff for Lincoln Riley trying to get that stuff done. Couldn't get it done. And the week before that, Washington struggled with Stanford. So I thought USC had a really good chance of making that a game. And obviously, they didn't cover the 6 point spread, and I'm kind of upset about that. But I mean, the thing is it was close enough where they had a chance to get that thing down there, and they just, I mean, it's just a double digit lead kind of just slipped away. But what do you think about the Huskies right now? Are you still thinking that they're probably Pac-12 champs, or do you think my Ducks have a chance to give them their first loss in that scenario? And if you want to continue to talk about that, does that affect where they are in the CFP, or do they stay where they're at and Oregon stays behind them anyways?
Yeah, so I do think Washington probably goes undefeated and wins the Pac-12, right? My question that I have now is like, how does that actually put them in the playoff race? Because honestly, an undefeated Pac-12 team with an undefeated ACC team in Florida State and an undefeated um, Big Ten team and maybe an undefeated SEC champ in Georgia, right? I think Washington stays number 5 in that scenario. Um, I hate it because they probably should be in the playoff in that scenario, but do you put them over a one-loss Ohio State or a one-loss Michigan in that conference championship is really the question. Um, do I think them blowing out I think them like blowing out Oregon or something in the Pac-12 championship game or blowing out like not Washington obviously, but blowing out USC in the Pac-12 championship game if that were to occur, that could push them over the edge to like maybe be number 4 and push like a one-loss Michigan or a one-loss Ohio State down to number 5. I don't see them putting in a Pac-12 champ over an ACC champ. Do I disagree with that? 100% because Washington just has a better schedule in my opinion. But I don't know, that LSU game seems to be carrying a lot of weight for, Florida State, so, I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it if you think, like, who an a undefeated ACC versus undefeated Pac-12, assuming that the first 3 spots are 2 Big Ten teams and a SEC champ, right? So, like, what's really the scenario there?
I mean, obviously, like as an Oregon Ducks fan, I don't really want to see Washington go undefeated. I don't think they
Yeah.
will, but I mean, if they do, right? And we're talking about everything you just mentioned. I mean, I kind of have to agree, right? I mean, there's nothing the strength of schedule is just too weak, right? Like that's what it is with
Mhm.
Washington. It's not because it's not impressive. But wouldn't it be convenient, Zach, that we have a year like this before we get into this 12 team stuff? Right? Like, I mean, this would happen, right?
Mhm.
Five teams that deserve to have a shot. Well, if we had a 12 team playoff this year, they would get a shot. And not only would they get a shot, Oklahoma State would probably get a shot. You would have teams like North Carolina
Texas would be
probably.
in
Yeah,
there.
Texas would get a shot.
I
Um,
mean, Penn State probably gets
Penn
in,
State,
Louisville gets
yeah,
in, right?
Louisville gets in. I mean, yeah, you have,
Bama, all of these
yeah. I
teams.
mean, that's and that's the beauty of the system. But somehow I feel like when it gets implemented, we won't really have this problem, and we'll be sitting here going, "Is this too many teams?" And that's kind of where my Nostradamus kind of feelers are is we need it now, we're not going to get it, but when we get it, we're going to be like complaining that we don't really need it, and I think that
I disagree. I think we're gonna love the 12 team as soon as it
I
comes in fact, I would argue for a 16 team,
I mean, I,
you
I,
know?
don't- I mean, I don't have a problem with more football. You want more football? Give me more football. I'm not,
Yeah, more football.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
always
not,
a
I'm,
fan of more
I'm all
football.
for more football. Like, I'm not going to complain about the games. I just think, as far as dictating the best team in the country, would that be the most effective way? Maybe. But the way that the college football is so crazy, I mean, I don't know if we would get the desired result that we really necessarily think we should have going into those playoff games. I think if 4 teams, like you said, is probably not enough this year, unless what I think is going to happen happens, which I think Georgia loses, more than one game, which is crazy because I wouldn't be saying that. I don't think if they had their healthy tight end, but I think when you see how that's limited Carson Beck specifically because that's one of his favorite targets, not because I don't think that in general Georgia's not a good team. I think because Carson Beck prefers to throw to the tight end because of the way that it opens up the middle of the field. I think that we take that away, and maybe he gets a little more antsy. Maybe his progressions aren't as smooth because his best buddy isn't out there. It's like taking Travis Kelsey away from Patrick Mahomes in a way. I mean, not that Carson Beck is anywhere near as talented or anything, but I'm saying just the relationship between those two and how much one relies on the other for success. I think you'll start seeing that kind of rear its ugly head. So, I mean, losing to Alabama is one thing, but you lose to Ole Miss and you lose to Alabama, and you have Bama lose another game. I mean, which that could happen. Kentucky's no slouch. I mean, Alabama doesn't have a cakewalk to end the season. I mean, Kentucky's a tough team. Mark Stoops and them boys are going to play them tough this weekend. Um, but I mean, that's really the only team they've got left. I don't think Auburn's going to give them any form of a fit, and Chattanooga definitely isn't. So I mean, I think this has got to be the week if Alabama's going to lose one more, and if not, then I think they've solidified themselves as being part of that SEC championship game. And if Georgia loses this weekend, um, then I mean, I think that if they lose again, I think you would have to have Alabama in that 4 spot. You'd have an undefeated Washington team, which I just don't. I mean, I'm gonna say a one-loss Oregon team probably at the 4 spot. You probably put Alabama at 3. Michigan goes undefeated, put them at 1, and then the 2. I mean, I mean, as of right now, I guess you would have to say,
Florida State.
yeah, Florida State, which I don't see Florida State losing.
Here's my thing. If Georgia does go undefeated in the regular season
Yeah,
and loses to Alabama in the
yeah,
conference game, and we talked about this last
yeah,
time when I was muted, right?
yeah,
They both get in.
yeah. No,
Um, if
I
Michigan if Michigan and Ohio State both go undefeated in the regular season and one of them loses to the other in the conference game, they both get in. I think this is the year that we have. I mean, assuming this is only if Florida State loses a
loses.
game,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Because
but
in this world that I'm talking about, we're gonna have two SEC and two
two
Big
Big
Ten
Ten.
teams going into the
See, I
college
see.
football
I just
playoff.
don't see that because I just think Florida State's kind of inevitable. I think that's the one good thing I got out
I
of
think
my
so,
preseason picks. I think that's the only thing I got right, and like you said, it hinges on that LSU win. If I don't
which is
get that
crazy because
if I don't get
LSU's
that
not that good.
no, and that's the thing is it's like that's been evident throughout the season that they're not terrible, but they're in that
And
15-16 range, and that's
but
kind of as
Florida State has nobody else to play is the
Florida.
problem. Like,
Florida's it. Florida's the only team they got left that could
and
possibly
who?
trip them up.
Probably Louisville in the conference championship game, right? So,
Yeah, which that
like,
could definitely happen. But I
that
mean,
could happen, but, like, Florida State's definitely the by far favorite to win all of these games.
yeah,
I don't think they have the schedule, but you can't argue with undefeated, right? If they're undefeated, you gotta let them boys
yeah,
play.
and they're
So,
already 4. So it's like you can't move them
yeah,
down,
you're not gonna move them
especially
down for winning.
especially if Washington has one loss and it's in the Pac-12 championship game. If Oregon has one loss and it's to Washington but not in the Pac-12 championship game, they've avenged it. That's not going to be good enough to get over a one-loss Alabama team or a one-loss Michigan team if Ohio State
Yeah,
beats them.
but
I mean,
my concern is what needs to happen for an undefeated Washington to jump an undefeated Florida State to number 4. I don't know if there's anything that can happen.
yeah, you would just
I mean,
you would
I
have
think
to
it's
have you'd
disrespectful
have
to
to
Oregon almost though
you'd
to
have to
like
have
say
Michigan
that
lose
Washington's
twice.
wins weren't good enough.
You'd have to have
But
Michigan lose twice. That's the only way. That's the only way
how
to.
is the committee justifying a win over LSU against what would presumably be 2 wins against Oregon? Like, how do you I mean, we
Because
gotta give some
I
love
mean,
to Washington at that point. Like, it's disrespectful to Oregon, in my
I
opinion,
mean
to
it
not
is. It is.
give Washington that spot.
It is. If
Like, you're talking about the number 6 team in the country, right? Like, or what are they? Are they number 7 now in the college
6,
football
we're
playoff
we're
poll?
6. We're
They're number
6.
6.
Yeah.
You're talking about a win against you're number 5. You have a win against number 6. Uh, I don't what Florida State has a win against number what, 19? Like
Louisville is currently number. Sorry, Louisville
11?
off this week. Yeah, they're like 11 or.
Oh, I'm talking about LSU. Like, they have a
Oh,
win against
LSU. Oh, LSU. Yeah, they are. Everybody I'm looking for.
they might be off.
Their office. Um, I can pull it quick though.
But, like, it just doesn't make I don't know, maybe it's the SEC, like, you beat an SEC team, or is there a hangover from Joe Burrow? I mean, it's been a couple years now. Let's stop acting like LSU is some powerhouse. They're not.
Louisville's 11. LSU is 19.
Oh, I was right. Um, yeah, they're saying a win over 19 is a better than win over 6 right now. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's because of what Oregon is. I think it's definitely disrespect to us because it's like to be honest, like the only loss we've had is Washington. Like sure we had a close win against Texas Tech, which at the time didn't look bad, but now it's like, But I mean that was down in Lubbock. We
Yeah,
traveled like
and
that like 15 to 1800 miles to like be there, like in one of the shittiest towns in America. I mean it's just I knew we weren't gonna play well. I didn't think we were gonna be up 1 and need a pick 6 to cover. Um, but I mean, I think that the more one loss teams you have, the more problems you're gonna have. And right now, I can probably I'm thinking that Oregon and Washington finished with identical records, which is rough. Um, I think Florida State goes undefeated. I think Michigan and Ohio State are on a collision course for one of them to. I mean, I think the game is going to decide who stays in the CFP, because even if Ohio State is, since they're one right now, and let's say Michigan stays three, and let's say Georgia, takes care of Ole Miss, and they take care of Alabama as well, and they give Alabama their second loss, right? Then, I mean, it comes down to who. I don't think Ohio State, even being the number one team in the country in the CFP, would deserve to be in over a one-loss Oregon team or a one-loss Washington team, because of the fact that, like you said, you're talking about playing the number 6 team in the country, and then the first time you played, they were like the number 3 or 4 team in the country. Like, they've been a
Exactly. Like,
top 10 team
where's the
both times you've
respect?
played them, and same thing with Washington. They were a top 10 team both times these teams played. So I think that would be very disrespectful to have a one-loss Ohio State team be in there over Oregon or Washington if they're one loss, teams, because of that.
Yeah,
Especially Washington, right? Even if, because Washington doesn't have a chance really to lose another game, right? Like, it's really going to be the Pac-12 championship game. I mean, they had their chances to lose. They've kind of squandered. I mean, they have Utah this week. Who knows? I
Utah's
mean,
gonna be the. I mean, that it's
I
not gonna
mean,
be easy.
they have Utah and Oregon State back to back. So they've got two ranked teams back to back, and,
And they
and
should take care of business, but this does seem like the 2 weeks that they would probably lose a game, right? It's gonna be
yeah,
one of
and
those if
and
they're
and
going to.
yeah, and as far as Oregon goes, they have USC this week, which they could lose to, and they have Oregon State 2 weeks later that they could lose to. I mean, both of these teams have two teams that have the capabilities of beating them before they would get to that point. Ohio State doesn't really have that. Michigan doesn't really have that except for this week against Penn State. Georgia, they have a couple that, they have Ole Miss and they have Georgia Tech. The only reason I bring up Georgia Tech is because Georgia Tech is snake bit North Carolina, snake bit
Yeah,
Miami. I mean, and they've got Tennessee. So I mean, like, that's a tough three games to end the season. Tennessee is not going to be a slouch for Georgia either. Tennessee might play their best game of the season. It just seems like something Tennessee would do. So it's just, right now, I think we just take a step back, right? I think we
let's
need to,
let's let's think about this top 4, like
yeah,
who it would actually be, right? It's got my prediction where we currently sit at in the season is number 1 Michigan, number 2 Florida State, number 3 number 3 Washington, number 4 out 1 loss Alabama.
yeah,
That's my prediction
yeah,
right now.
and
That
and
that's that's
and
that's what I think.
and I would just replace Washington with Oregon.
Yeah, like, and
That
I
I mean
think that's
that's
how it
that's
goes.
that's that's
I think
kind.
but
I
I think
mean,
if Oregon gets in, then Alabama probably gets number 3 instead of Oregon.
yeah, I'll give you that.
Um,
Well, I don't know that because you're
well,
talking
that's
about
just the
a
disrespect part,
loss. You're
though.
you're
That's
talking about,
SEC
yeah.
versus
I
Oregon.
mean,
It's
but you're also,
SEC versus
yeah.
Oregon, come
But
on.
see, then my justification would be like, well, look, I mean, not only did you lose to Washington only by 3 points, but then you went and
Yeah,
beat them.
true.
Like, I mean,
A missed field goal, by the way.
and it shouldn't even come down to that either. Anyways, Dan Lanning was like, fourth down, let's go for it all game long, and I was
Yeah,
like, and I only had a problem with the one before half, which we could have tacked on a field goal, and you
overtime.
know,
I mean, and if you
yeah,
make that field goal, you probably make the second one that you miss, you probably get a little bit more practice under you. You can probably win that game by 3.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Um,
I mean,
but
that game was close. Like, so, like, let's say, like, if Michigan blows out Ohio State, right? I mean, then they
yeah.
obviously become number one, right? And like you said,
And
Florida
blowouts, I
it,
think, affect this a lot. Like, if Ohio
10,
State gets
14.
blown out, then they're not staying in the like,
No,
14
no,
points.
yeah,
Like, they're
yeah.
not staying in the top 4.
Yeah, and Florida State should take care of business against what they've got left. If they beat Louisville, which it looks like that's who it's going to be. If they beat Louisville by 14, which I think they would, because I think Louisville is kind of fraudulent. I think they're just kind of on a roll. I think that those are solid 1-2s. And I think, Alabama beating Georgia, if that was Georgia's only loss, which again, like I said, these teams have tough schedules coming up. It's not like any of these teams
Yeah.
have easy, like the easiest. I hate to say this, but the easiest schedule out of anybody we've talked to, or talked about this whole entire podcast, is Oklahoma State. They've got the easiest road to do anything.
Well,
Like,
they can't make the
no,
playoffs.
they
They have
can't
2
make
losses, right? They're not
no.
gonna
I'm
make
just
the
saying
playoffs, but they
they've got
have
the
the
easiest
potential to
schedule
really disrupt it.
out of anybody that we've mentioned in the whole entire podcast. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
and
yeah.
I also just don't think that there's a possibility of a Big 12 team getting in at this
No,
point.
I think your Big 12 team getting in would have to be Texas, and I mean
That
they'd
only
have
happens if a lot of other things happen. Like, Texas's best shot right now is probably
it
first one
would
out, right?
still be one loss though. If they, I mean, it would probably be Texas
Yeah,
and
but they're
Oklahoma State,
with
and
the losses that OU's gotten, I mean, that OU win's just looking less and less valuable.
oh, you
Let's
mean
not
the
sugar
OU
or not
loss?
OU,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
the
OU
OU
loss
loss.
is
It's
looking
like,
worse and worse.
yeah,
That's what you mean to say. I mean, because
yeah, it's like way
it would
looking way
technically
worse.
be worse than the Oregon losing the Washington loss. Like that would be worse.
Yeah, and I think that that kinda puts Texas' ceiling at number 5, right? Like,
Yes. No, their
I just
ceiling
don't
is
think they
5.
get in.
Yeah, their ceiling's 5.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think Big 12's kind of out of it. Yeah, which kind of sucks. But I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
and
So I mean,
unfortunately, I
yeah.
mean, it kinda seems like the Pac-12 could be out of it, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's kind of yeah.
one of these top 4 right now is gonna fall out. Um, so it's just a question of if Washington can get in there or not.
Yeah. So let's
And just a quick little score update.
ooh, what?
OKC down 5 going into the 4th quarter
Oh
against
baby.
Sacramento.
Um, me a gander.
Yeah,
Getting
definitely an
absolutely.
interesting. They were showing a highlight from the Heat game, and I was like, "Why are they on the Miami's court?" Um, I believe this is an in-season tournament game. I don't know.
It is. Yeah, it's a yeah, it's an in-season tournament play game. Yes.
I mean, I know they had I don't know if you watched the Celtics game today, but they had a really cool court.
Did not. I'll have to look.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not a huge fan of all the in-season stuff, but their court looked really good. It was like the darker green that they have on their jerseys sometimes.
Oh, I'm
Not the
seeing it.
normal
I'm seeing
Boston
it.
green, but the
Seeing it.
darker one. I liked it. It was maybe a little bit too much green, but like I liked it.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's not as bright as the other one.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of the red ones.
Yeah, weren't a fan of of the red court you saw today. Um,
Just like over the past few days, like they're so bright.
yeah, they are kind of bright. Let's let's go ahead here and let's talk about. All right, so tomorrow we got some stuff going on.
Yeah, we got some games. Got a couple
You've
picks in
already picked
already,
Michigan -4. Ole
and Ole
Miss
Miss
on the money line, just
straight
straight up.
up.
Um, we've got games to go over, right? So let's start with 11 a.m. Michigan, Penn State, Michigan -4. You've got that on lock. I don't really debate you on this. I think Michigan's got this one kind of wrapped up. Let's move on to this next one
Yeah,
here. Alabama's playing Kentucky. Alabama 11-point favorite on the road in Lexington. Devin Leary, the best quarterback on the field. They've also got the best running back on the field. The only thing they don't have is really good wide receivers and a defense that is decent. It's not the worst defense in the world. Over under at 47.5. So they're expecting, again, kind of a low scoring 27-21 kind of game. Um, what are you thinking about Alabama's chances here? Are they covering this? You think that Kentucky's just not going to be up to the challenge? I mean, this is a home game for the Wildcats, tough environment. Does any of that matter?
not for Ned Saban, it doesn't. Um, I'm there is no home field advantage against Nick Saban unless you're like Kirby Smart or something. So um, Alabama should win this game pretty handily, and if they don't, then Georgia all of a sudden has a much easier path. So,
Yeah,
but I think Alabama wins this game probably by what's the spread?
it's 11.
Yeah, I think they probably. I'm gonna put it on the. I mean, I think Kentucky covers. I think so. I think Kentucky probably
Like a
covers here.
10-point win, probably.
Yeah, I think they set that line at 11 for a reason. So
No, Kroger,
I
Kroger,
wouldn't. I'm not gonna take. I don't
yeah,
think I'm gonna take that. But
yeah, but yeah,
um,
it's interesting. It's an interesting one for sure.
yeah.
Um, Texas Tech on the road in Lawrence to play number 16 Kansas. Kansas
Hmm.
favored by 4 points.
I'll take Kansas there. I want Kansas there bad. Just because I know that Kansas and Lawrence plays very well.
I mean, an OU fan would say that. Yes,
Yes.
the proof is there.
And you know, not I'm not gonna sit here and act like OU is a top 10 team, but um, OU is a much better team than Tech.
Okay,
So
okay. Um, we've got
and OU lost by 5.
yeah. So that tells you something.
Hmm.
All right. Here's one for you. Number 21 Arizona on the road in Boulder to take on the Buffaloes of Colorado. I need this win for the Buffaloes. They're 10-point
Yeah,
underdogs here. Are we feeling like Arizona's bubble bursts here
I'm
on the road?
feeling like Buffalo's here. That's
Is
how I'm feeling. I feel like they get their one. I feel like they get the wheels back on.
right, like it just
The
feels.
God, the Kings are just destroying the Thunder right now in the fourth quarter.
I mean,
They're just looking good. Bad things happening.
hate to hear that. So you want to take Colorado plus the points, or are you just that's just a
I mean,
hunch?
if you want, I'll leave that. I'll leave that to you.
Okay, I'll take that on mine then. I'll take the Colorado game. Um, let's see. Any other good games going on that I'm looking at here? Miami on the road to play Florida State. The Seminoles 14-point favorites over the Hurricanes. Any shot we see upset city for Mario Cristobal in the Hurricanes, or is this just not their year? They're 6-3, 2-3 in the ACC.
You know what? What's the spread?
14.
Give me Miami to cover that.
I
Miami's covering 14 there.
that too.
Like they're covering 14, and I think this is like a 10-point win for Florida State, but I don't think this is going to be an easy win by
Even a
any means.
13-point win would be
Yeah, like I
yeah.
feel like you gotta take the Miami to cover there. Oh, this dude is just airballing threes in the Kings halftime contest or whatever it
Oh
is.
no. You watching Stream East?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Here's one for you. Utah on the road in Seattle to play Washington. Washington 8.5-point favorites against the Utes at home.
8.5-point favorites against the Utes. And this is in Washington.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any problems with that.
Yeah. You think Washington probably covers that?
Probably I think Washington probably wins by 10 here.
Yeah. I'd
10,
probably agree.
13, 14, that range.
Yeah, I think this next one I'll probably make one of my picks here. Tennessee 2.5-point favorites on the road against Missouri. Um, give me give me the Volunteers. I'll take the Volunteers minus the 2.5. Um, just fuck Mizzou. Your thoughts?
I hate Mizzou. I really do. Give me the other side.
Oh
Let's
god
make
damn
this
it!
interesting.
All right.
Let's
Let's
make this interesting.
well
Let's make sure neither of us gets to go. Let's make sure.
DraftKings has the line as at +3. So you want to take it at +3?
Yeah, I'll take it at +3.
Okay, you'll take Missouri plus
Here's
three.
so here's my thing. I want to make sure that neither of us can finish 6-0 here, right? So or 5-0. So
Um,
so I'm gonna make sure that one of us
no, you're
loses
right.
a
You're right.
loses a
Six and
bet
zero.
here.
You're right.
Or yeah, 6-0.
You've got one pick left.
Yeah,
I'm going down the line here to see if there's
I'm gonna save
anything
it for my boys.
that got Ole Miss and Georgia. Georgia 10.5-point favorites over the Rebels of Ole Miss, and I no, I just don't believe in Lane Kiffin. I'm sorry. I just don't see it happening. for Ole Miss this week. Unfortunately, like I'm not gonna make this one of my picks, but I think Georgia wins this game. I don't know if they cover, but they're probably winning this game. Your thoughts?
I mean, you know my thoughts.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think they get this one done. I think that Ole Miss is going to come out swinging. I think they're going to go up early. I think they're going to go up probably like 21-7 early, and then it's going to be a shootout from there on out that I don't think Georgia keeps up with. It's going to be a close game at the end, but
All right.
I think Ole Miss wins.
OU West Virginia. OU minus
This
11
is
and minus 11 and a half.
this is where I make my final pick. Right, I'm always going to bet on the boys. Give me OU minus 11.5. I take that painfully.
You got it, bub. OU
They
minus.
set that at 11.5 for a reason too.
Well, DraftKings has it as 11, so you're actually looking better on DraftKings or on ESPN.
Geez, we were talking about natties in the beginning of the season. Now we're talking about 11-point favorites against West Virginia
Oof, rough.
at home.
It's
I
it's
mean,
it's rough. I mean, it's
this this is going to be a tough one. I think this is going to be a tough watch on your part too when you're in the stadium. I don't know. In Norman kind of makes a big deal here. They
yeah,
probably win by 14.
yeah. I
But yeah, I
got
mean, I'm going to bet on them either way, and they're a lock of the week as they always will be.
lock of
But
the week coming in hot. Let me go ahead and paste that there and good little screenshot here of that too. Um, and the Cobra is out. All right. There is that. Bam. All right, got those taken care of. So here are my picks, and I'm gonna give them to you right now, folks. We're gonna go a little speed action here. I'm gonna clear all these out. All right, so I'm gonna start at the top here. We're gonna go down. I'm gonna give you my picks. Here's my first one, and this one is a good one because I believe Oklahoma State minus 2.5 on the road against UCF. Give me the Cowboys minus
100%.
minus the 2.5. I think this line is completely disrespectful to what Oklahoma State's done. UCF is a good team. I do think we're looking at strength against strength here. I'm not going to, debate that. Um, but I think Oklahoma State you know, is better than a 2.5 point victory over UCF, and I think they get the job done on the road in Orlando. So that is my first pick of the afternoon. We're starting a little later. Um, Second pick, and this one I'm just giddy about. Um, Give me, and this is big. This is big for me right here. Give me Michigan State plus the 31 against Ohio State. Ohio State's not beating Michigan State by 31. Give me the Spartans not to
You
win,
sure about that?
but dude, I'm not because
You sure about
they
that?
bit me in the ass last time. I lost by like 50 to
That whole
whoever I
school is
had
in
them.
shambles, you know that, right?
I
Like, this
do.
whole school is just in shambles. I
It's
mean,
a
they just lost in
28-point
basketball.
win for
They're
Ohio
supposed to be a
State.
basketball school, and they
Ohio,
just lost it. Like,
Oh,
who'd they lose to? I mean, geez.
James Madison.
JMU?
But hey,
Yeah, this is
but
terrible.
James
What are you doing
Madison's
here?
undefeated in
That's
football.
terrible. It's a terrible pick. I mean, 31's a giant spread, but if anyone's gonna lose by 31, it's Michigan State. Come on
No, they're
now.
not going to do it. I'm not letting it happen. Um, Look,
Watch
and
Michigan State win this game.
I think I might cover.
That'd be insane.
Um,
Yeah, that'd be insane.
my third pick is going to be USC plus 16 against my Oregon Ducks. Look, I think this is going to be a lot closer. I think this is a disrespectful line to USC. They are a really good football team, and my defense is not great, and that scares me because I think Brendan Rice is a really good wide receiver. Zachariah Branch, really good wide receiver. Marshawn Lloyd will be back, taking carries for USC. Caleb Williams will do Caleb Williams things, and Bo Nix will turn into a pumpkin and we'll have Bo Nix, probably make some mistakes. We'll have Dan Lanning go for it on 4th and 8, on our own
Man, is
side of
that
the field.
defense? You're not
Um,
gonna have a 4th down against that
yeah,
defense.
you're,
Stop
you're I
lying.
mean, you should. Turnovers are the big worry. But
Yeah, just
that's
like just don't make a mistake. Don't give the ball to one of their speed demons at the corner that can't
exactly.
cover but can be a ball hawk. Just wait for your receiver to leave them in the dust and then throw them the ball.
Yep.
Because that's what's gonna happen.
Fourth pick, my fourth pick here. I'm gonna go ahead and do this because I don't know if Riley Leonard is playing, but I don't think it'll matter. Give me North Carolina minus 13 against Duke. I like North Carolina getting the job done at home in Chapel Hill. I know their defense is bad, but I think that they get the job done. And I think if Duke doesn't have Riley Leonard, they're absolutely cooked. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
that's my fourth pick of the day. Fifth pick, and this one is kind of going back to the 2:30 window. Give me, oh God, I mean, mm, yeah, give me Tennessee minus 3. Give me Tennessee minus 3 over Missouri, because we had to go head to head in that. So give me the minus 3 there. And then my last pick is going to be my Colorado Buffaloes. I will take them to get the job done against Arizona. I think they have a really good shot here of getting to 7 wins this season if they can beat the Wildcats. At the beginning of the season, this looked like a gimme win for the Buffaloes, but not anymore. So give me Colorado plus 10. I think Shadir Sanders, Dion get their stuff together. They're on a short week too. They play Saturday and they play again Friday against Washington State. So they've got a short week and they've got two above average opponents that they're going against. And we know that Colorado has not been playing fantastic football as of late. But I think that they get things back on track, and I think that you're looking at a team in Colorado that is going to at least be in this game from the opening snap until the final whistle. I just think they're. I think Arizona's had a good couple weeks, but I think those good couple weeks probably end here, and I think that Colorado definitely gets the job done there. So that will be your Stoner Sportsbook wrap up for Week 10. Let's go ahead and quickly transition here into who is drinking that motherfucking Kool-Aid. And surprise, surprise, it's one of our own. And I'd say I'm shocked, but I'm not. I'm really not shocked that you would say something this wild. So let's go ahead and get it going.
You want some Kool-Aid?
Hold on,
Man,
let
you
me
know
just
I
get
want
ready
some
to.
Kool-Aid.
Show the love, bub, drink the Kool-Aid. It ain't the end, baby, it's a new day. Future's so bright, I bought some new shades. Toast that, bottoms up, drink the Kool-Aid.
So it's Zach Huffman drinking the Kool-Aid. He says OU is still going to win the Big 12. Zach, please explain yourself.
Well, they're going to win all the football games that they have left. That's plain and simple. They went out. OSU loses a game, hopefully, um, and we'll see what happens. But I think OU gets into the Big 12 game against Texas, and I think that we win this one by 5 points instead of 4 this time.
You know,
So
I hated the fact that we had to go toe to toe with that Missouri game because I totally was going to pick TCU to cover their spread. But we'll just leave that to a rooting interest while I'm away, and we will continue to root for the Hypno Toads as they continue their streak because I have Oklahoma playing Oklahoma State down there in Arlington because I think Texas is going to choke on a big fat one. I think they lose to TCU. I think they lose to Texas Tech. I think they drop 2 out of their last 3 games, and I think that gives us a rematch of Bedlam. And I think that you could be correct. I think OU probably could win the Big 12 championship over Oklahoma
if
State
they get a
in a
rematch,
rematch.
OU wins.
Yeah, I think,
If there's a rematch, OU wins
and
100%.
I think if there's a rematch OU Texas, OU loses. I think
Give us some better refs. I mean,
I give us some better refs and everything will be fine. Just give us better refs. Give us ACC refs. They're fine.
give me some ACC
Yeah,
refs,
give
and
us
this
some
doesn't happen. That's all I'm
ACC
gonna say.
refs. But yeah, no, that's your who's drinking all the Kool-Aid. Go ahead and let's get into our last topic of the evening, and that's our NBA picks. Right, we were gonna do these last
Yeah.
week, but things have developed, things have happened. Um, go ahead and let's take a gander here. Who have you got?
I got my picks.
So go ahead and break yours down
I got
while I
all the
get mine
awards
ready.
here. So I'm gonna start from the bottom and move my way up. Right. So bottom for me is probably gonna be um, most improved player. I'm gonna go with Jabari Smith Jr. from the Rockets. This was all preseason picks, by the way, so I don't want anyone telling me like, a couple weeks into the season these are wrong. One, or a couple weeks into the season, let's calm down. Two, these are all preseason picks,
Yeah.
okay? So most improved player is going to be Jabari Smith Jr. Sixth man of the year. I don't believe this is the case anymore. I thought it was going to be Micic, right, for OKC. I don't think that happens anymore. Sixth man of the year was probably someone on the Celtics, so we'll find out. I don't really know yet. Rookie of the year, I had picked Amen Thompson to win this. That's not going to happen anymore. It's going to be Wembanyama, and I just wanted to be different and not pick Victor Wembanyama, but it's going to be Wembanyama. So let's just get that out of the way now, right? It could be Chet. It could be Chet. There's a possibility he's going to have to play a little bit better and not get dunked on twice like he did in this game. But we'll see what happens there. Defensive player of the year. This is where I think things start to get a little bit more. I'll stick with these throughout the rest of the season, right? I'm gonna say Evan Mobley's gonna win Defensive Player of the Year. I think Rudy Gobert is the favorite right now, and I think Anthony Davis is behind them. That's gonna fade. I mean, we know that Anthony Davis is gonna tear something in about 27, 28 games in. Rudy Gobert, he's not gonna get voted for it because no one wants to vote for Rudy Gobert. So Evan Mobley is my Defensive Player of the Year pick. Coach of the Year, I'm going Martin Daigneault. He came in second last year. He took a team to 42 wins, I think was the number. He took a team to 42 wins. Um, that shouldn't have won that should have won maybe 30. So this year I think they're gonna win. What did I have them? Yeah, this year I think they're gonna win 54 games, the Thunder. So I think that with that amount of wins, he should win Coach of the Year. Scoring champion, I had SGA, and I had my number here, 33.1 points per game. I think that's holding up right now, so we'll see how that goes. MVP, I have Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum wins the MVP just because I think Boston is probably going to win the East. Whether or not that means they get to the finals is one thing. I think they're going to finish as the number one team in the East. I think they're going to win 60 plus games. Jason Tatum should pretty comfortably win MVP at that point, in my opinion. Should it be Jokic? Probably. Does voter fatigue still exist for Jokic right now? I think so. It probably should be Jokic, but I don't think it will be. But luckily for Jokic, we get my next couple of predictions. My finals MVP is Nikola Jokic. I think that they're going to repeat. So their Nuggets are my NBA champions as well, and I think they're going to play the Bucks in the NBA Finals. I think that Damian Lillard's going to show up in the playoffs, even if Giannis doesn't. Hot take: if the Bucks win the finals, Damian Lillard would be the Finals MVP. Um, we'll see what happens there, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I think basically all of my predictions are Jokic is the best player in the league. He still is the best player in the league, and they're probably going to repeat. That team is so good. I think anybody that watches basketball can pretty easily tell that the Nuggets are just that much better than everybody they play. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I mean, I like those picks. I do. I like
Oh,
those.
I actually missed one thing.
Oh,
In
go ahead.
season tournament winner,
Oh, yeah.
Celtics.
Okay.
Celtics.
All right. All right. You ready? I've got mine all ready here. So most improved player, and again, like this, like you said, this was kind of this pick was definitely before the season started. My pick was Jordan Poole. I don't think it's gonna hold up for me. At least not so far. He's been kind of spotty. But I think
My
him be
opinion, I just
him
don't think he has the improvement room, right? Like I think
yeah,
he's
like
already shown how
like
good he is.
I think if he can play better as the season progresses, obviously being in a new uniform, being in a new system, being around new teammates obviously affects everything. Um, but instead of like the first game of the season where they were letting him just kind of shoot wherever he wants, if he's kind of limited his shot taking, and I think that's kind of put his production a lot lower than I thought it would be because I thought it was going to be just here Kyle Kuzma, here Jordan Poole, chuck anything up. We're fine with losing, 70 games this season. That was kind of the mode I thought the Wizards were going to be in. But after watching their game against the Hornets tonight, I don't really think that's kind of their mantra anymore. I think they've got some good pieces. Uh, Crispert, the 3-year guy out of Gonzaga, looking fantastic. Um, I mean, he's a good deep ball threat. They've got some decent work defensively inside for them as well. So I think that pick's probably going to fall through. I mean, most improved player besides him, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Maybe. Mm, I don't know. Maybe Lonnie Walker. I mean, I like Lonnie Walker as most improved because now he's getting a lot of minutes with Brooklyn, and you're really getting to kind of see his production go up because of the minutes he's getting. So I like Lonnie Walker to kind of really be the most improved because, yeah, he looked good when he got his time in the playoffs with the Lakers, but I think now that he's getting a lot more minutes, I think you're looking at someone who could definitely make a running. Rookie of the year, I'm still going with Chet. Um, I don't think that's probably what's going to happen. I think Wemby's probably got it locked down. But you have to look at the efficiency Chet shooting the ball with. His defensive prowess is unquestioned. And as long as he keeps shooting 90% from the free throw stripe, I mean, I don't really have a problem with him being the second banana to Wemby if that ends up being the case. But I think that he's got a shot if anything were to happen to Wemby. Knock on wood, he probably takes that spot for sure. Defensive player of the year. I am going with a Boston Celtic. I was going to go with Jason Tatum. I mean, you went MVP, but I think Defensive Player of the Year, Jason Tatum. I think it's one of those things where he needs to improve in that area, and I think if he does, that's what's going to propel the Celtics to their success this season. Is if he plays better on the defensive side of the ball, and I think he's got a good chance to do that. Coach of the Year. I mean, you said Mark Dagnall. I don't have a problem with that. Um,
There's someone that
I
I would probably take now instead of him
who
going
who
into the
who would you
season.
take now?
Mike Brown,
Who's he coaching right now?
the Kings.
Kings, the Kings. Um, yeah, that's. I mean, that was my second. That was actually my second pick. Um, I've actually got a coach that you probably won't think of, but I'm going with Frank Vogel. I think Frank. I mean, and the reason I'm going with Frank Vogel is I think you're looking at your NBA champs when you look at the Phoenix Suns. So I think that Frank Vogel being coach of the year would make complete sense. Um, I think he's been enough places where this would be kind of one of those things where yeah you can do it without you know big time major league pieces that aren't LeBron James. But it would be good for him, I think, to separate himself from a lot of these other coaches in that respect. Scoring champ, I'm also SGA. I'm also pro SGA. I think that the Thunder asked for that production. I think he gives it out. I think your 33.1 points per game is probably right on pace for what it's gonna have to be to take that. And I think that if he stays healthy and they continue to run the offense through him as they should, I think that I have no problem with him being the scoring champ. MVP, give me Joel Embiid. I think like you said, I think it probably should be Jokic if he stays healthy. But I think Joel Embiid, I think that now that James Harden is gone and him and Maxey have been kind of just going off, I think that's going to be what propels him past the Joker because I think the Joker is going to have to rely more on his other pieces. And I think that's not going to limit his production in a way where they're going to lose games or anything, but it's going to take away from some of that wow factor. And I'm fine with him not winning the MVP as long as Denver gets to where I think they're going to get. My Eastern Conference Finals matchup is Boston and Philly. I think they finish Boston 1, Philly 2, probably at the end of the year. I think this time they actually meet each other in the Eastern Conference Finals again, and I think Boston probably gets the job done. I think they're probably going to like their third finals in the last 5 years or something like that. I think they're well on their way. And for the Western Conference Finals, I got Phoenix and Denver. I think it would be a fun matchup, and I have Phoenix beating Boston in the NBA Finals to get a championship down there and be the first team in Arizona professionally to bring home a a championship trophy out of all 3 professional teams they have down there. So, so those are my picks for the NBA. Anything else you want to kind of touch on before we get out of here? Anything you want to say before we sign off here on a pretty packed episode, only an hour and 15?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, I'm finishing up this Thunder Kings game as we speak. The Kings are up 7. The Thunder kind of let us slip away from them a little bit, but maybe we get a little crawback here. I'm seeing a little crawback action going on. So,
Back
keep
action.
your eyes on that.
Okay.
Keep your eyes on that. Obviously when this episode airs, this game's already going to be over, so we'll know the result, but um
We'll know the result. Yeah, once that happens. Yeah, absolutely.
but there's nothing more I can say besides very painfully Boomer Sooner.
You heard it here first. Well, 50 episodes, folks. We made it. We did it. Got the job done.
Yeah,
Here,
finally got
yeah,
number 50
yeah.
out, right?
Here's the 50 more.
Let's hope that we were both not muted.
Yeah. Yeah. I swear to God.
I need to start recording on my end just
yeah,
in case.
just in case. And hey, we'll see you guys next week to wrap it up. And for the meantime, keep a stick on the ice.